Okay. Okay.
You met us, and so whenever you want to just go ahead and start, are you ready for the staging and everything? Okay.
Is everything good? Yeah. I'm afraid I might go long was my only problem, but okay, I suppose I'm ready. I would like to thank the Commencement Committee for allowing me to speak today and wish to congratulate my fellow graduates on a job well done. At first glance, you may be wondering why I was selected to speak today. It is rather obvious that I am older than the average student. That's right, I'm 29, or more like, accurately, I celebrated my 16th anniversary of my 29th birthday this year. Before I get into the reason, I wish to say that there was two basic things I learned upon returning to EIU for graduate school. And the first one really involves my fellow students. At first glance, it may appear that I have very little in common with my fellow students, with the age and being of a different generation. But if I focus on the similarities, I start noticing several things in common. 20 years ago when I first attended EIU, was a first-generation college student, the first in my family to attend. Upon returning to graduate school currently, it was the first time I ever dropped a college course. First time I ever changed majors, and the first time I took a little extra time to graduate. Maybe now this all seems typical in hindsight, but I believe some of the audience were more deeply concerned and are the happiest members of this assembly to see this graduation day. I'd also like to point out that many of us can look at the empty chair in this assembly tonight, and it reminds several of us of a family member, mentor, or friend who is no longer with us in person, with the exception of the nurturing that person, with the exception of the nurturing the person we have become. Lastly, I, like many of you, had an academic turning point while attending EIU. This did not happen ASAP. First semester, I started off wishing to join the nutrition program, graduate program, and basically had to take several classes as prerequisites. And that was the biggest thing that I learned over the summer, was that chemistry is hard. And this was news to me. And at that point, this is where I dropped my major and switched course to regroup. And it was really basically over 1 week that I realized that what I wanted to do with nutrition was to help older citizens with diet, and that I was fortunate that I had one class, Research Methods, with Dr. Jacqueline Frank, and who was in charge of the gerontology program here at Eastern. And because of that connection, was able to gradually and rather smoothly transition to that graduate program. And upon that happening, it seemed like everything just went correctly. Within about a week, I had a graduate assistantship at the BGS program, which is the, I can find it in my notes, the Bachelor's in General Studies. It's an innovative degree program specifically designed to meet the educational goals of mature adults in a format and structure compatible with adult responsibilities, or so it says on the website. I was fortunate to work with Dr. Carrie Johnson. My first duty was to work on a project that she was working on. It was a basic task. I had to analyze some qualitative data, find any trends, write up the findings, and basically report this. I looked up the data. There was 20 interviews, highlighted the trends of various colors with my nice little highlighters, and moved on to write up the themes, at which point I realized I had writer's block. And basically, nothing was working, and I had to turn something in, and it was just basically like finally the sentence came on the wind, and you know, it was sort of like the sun-dappled leaves outside my office at Blair Hall was taunting me, and I continued to search for the elusive sentence, and doubt filled my thoughts. And finally the sentence came. I had read better, but this would do for now. Another sentence soon followed. They seemed to be brought in the breeze, gallantly crossing the farmlands, passing the square, turning left at Marty's, skirting the physical science building, and finally barging into my window. And I began to write, and the sentences turned into paragraphs, and the pages filled up gradually but steadily. And by the end of the workday, I had several pages of analysis. I did a very quick revision and emailed them to Dr. Johnson. I believe this was on a Friday, and it was a 3-day weekend, and Dr. Johnson left for a while, and basically when she got back to me a week later, she came into my office, which never really happened, and said she needed to talk to me. It's what she wrote about my research. And she continued, I showed your work to my co-author, and we both came to the same conclusion. We are not going to plagiarize your words. We both agreed to add you as an author. And so, as a graduate student, I was able to be published. The lived experience of graduates of an adult accelerated program, which is available in 21st century adult learning in our complex world, one of the better books that you could buy out there. I recommend it. Our chapter is in there. So it was a very good feeling to be able to contribute to the academic record. And the biggest thing I think I learned from that was to persevere. And really from that moment on, the perseverance continued. I was fortunate 20 years ago when I first attended EIU as an undergraduate. I was not able to, I was a veteran right out of the Marine Corps, and there was no student veteran organization on campus. And fortunately this time around there was, and I was able to contribute mainly just to give something back, because I really felt committed to, if it wouldn't have been for the military experience, I would not have went to college, because I would not have had the money, and really was, did not really understand how to go about the process. So I got involved in Student Veterans of Eastern, contributed a bunch of time to help raise money for them to go to New Mexico to do this Bataan Memorial Death March. And that was the end of it. Fortunately, one of the things I persevered with was getting to know the student body at EIU, and not just folks in my program, but just the other students out and about. And because of that, you know, several showed up for many of the fundraising events we had, and though it was not my intention, I was able to go to New Mexico and participate in this Bataan Memorial Death March, which was 26.2 miles, and I did finish it. I really didn't expect to go in the first place, but it was a good experience, and something that that I'll remember probably forever. And you know, the other events kept occurring. Several things. Basically, if you keep persevering, the gifts will come. And I don't know if it's so important to plan the outcome. I think it's more important to do what your passion directs you to do, and to put up your best effort, but not to give up. And I think the one thing that happened from the 20-year gap from the first time I attended EIU to currently is that basically not to get in the way of your own success. That basically the opportunities are available here at EIU, and if you have the will and the ability to just go ahead and try to attempt them, many great things will happen. Thank you. Good enough.